2 theatrical premieres for 1 short film. Why?
Now, without further ado,
I present to you all
the short film, The Story of Resilience.
It all started with this. Of course, I couldn't copy this man's life story without getting into copyright issues, so I had to make the script my own. Honestly, I don't really know how to do it behind the scenes. I just want to recap on some of the things that I learned, some of the mistakes that I made for my second short film, A Story of Resilience. I guess I always like the concept of a hidden battle in an athlete's life before the main, I guess, so-called battle, but that's what drives them. So I learned a lot from my first short film, Mariner Fan Club, but I think it is normal to make mistakes for every project, and that is okay. Here are some lessons that I learned, and hopefully it can help you in learning from this and hopefully not make the same mistakes that I made. I guess what I'm just gonna do is go from the beginning to end. So to find locations, I use Peerspace. When finding a location, I recommend the best overall in terms of price, in terms of what fits the schedule of you and your crew. And it can usually be tricky, but that is okay, that is part of the process. So I had a good idea of what the script would be, but to be completely honest, when I started shooting, I was not completely finished with the script. I was kind of impatient, and that is a lesson that I will take for my next project, to finish the script before actually shooting. Now, when casting actors, I not only look at their flexibility of schedule or the talent that they show, but also the reason why they want to do this. That's why I always like to ask, why do you want to be in this film? I knew I wanted the best that I could get, wanted the best locations, actors, crew, all that. So this time I was willing to put up more budget to pay them. I use Backstage casting website for this. I'm taking my project seriously, and I want my crew to also take it seriously. So I knew I had to get help. This time I got a sound person, I got a production assistant. Audio is half of the viewing experience, so you need a good audio. You can have good visuals, but if there's bad audio, it can distract the audience and take them out of the immersion that you're wanting. To budget this film, I had to bring it from my own pocket. I know there are things like Indiegogo, GoFundMes. One of my weaknesses is I usually forget things, or I want to do everything at once. I want to move equipment over there, I want to direct, I want to be the camera guy. So I need a production assistant to keep me level-headed. And there were some specific shots where the lighting was going to be critical, so I was also looking for a gaffer. A little bit more on that later. You should have your date in mind for when you want to start shooting, because you might get people asking this question. And just to cause less of a headache, it's good to have a date in mind. And that'll also make it easier and better when selecting your actors. Storyboarding, for me personally, it is easier to write it out, because when it plays in my head, it plays like a movie, and I'm a slow drawer. I only draw when I really need a visual representation, or I need it to show it to someone else. Finally, after all the headache of finding a day that fits everyone's schedule, we had a clear day. But there was this one small thing.
Parts of western Washington got hit with a few inches of snow today.
Hey, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. Hey, the roads are icy. One by one, I was starting to get these messages from my crew. Then on top of that, I had to keep in touch with the owner of the location, which, by the way, she was super cool, trying to give me solutions and also giving an update on the snow on her road. And this is why I believe communication is very important as a director. I offered to have somebody pick them up, and some of them agreed to it. You are the captain of the ship. I was so pissed. I already paid for the location, so I had to make sure that we still can get this done. So I got the location for 1 p.m. But then around 12 p.m., something amazing happened. It was almost like a sign that this was meant to happen, this was meant to go forward, and then nothing was gonna stop this. Everyone arrived on location 30 minutes late, but that is okay because I got the location for 8 hours, even though I believed that it would only take 5 hours. So that is another lesson. Things like this do happen in filmmaking. If you think it'll take 5 hours, you should at least give yourself 2 or 3 more extra hours. Prepare your things beforehand, the day before, so that you don't have to scramble around. But I think other than that, everything went pretty smoothly. Midway through, we had pizza, we got to know each other a bit more, and there was a nighttime scene, and by that time, we had already finished everything. Even one of my actors said, "It's cool that you got us more extra time." I'm so used to directors being on a rush, saying, "Hey, we gotta get this done, time's almost up." And I think that is a good thing to implement to your own project. And I truly believe that those extra hours made everything less stressful. And I was so happy. A month later, this was my first time renting out a boxing location. This is one of the ones that I did not get from PureSpace or other location scouting websites. This one I actually had to reach out and just hope that I would get a response. If you want to use the same layout that I used to message them, I'll show it on screen here. This was my first time choreographing a fight scene. So what I did was, a day before the shoot, I brought in the 2 people who would be fighting. I already had the choreograph in mind, but as a matter of fact, one of the actors already has experience with choreographing fights, and he was also a boxer. So he brought in suggestions. He was like, "I think it works better if we do this because this is how it would go in a boxing match." I kind of just let him add what he wanted, as long as it worked for the vision. If you're working with people who have more experience and more knowledge than you, be open to suggestions. Don't be closed off, even if you think your vision is really good, because if you close yourself off, then they might close off some important knowledge that you could use for the future. I didn't get as much extras as I hoped for, so I knew this wouldn't be exactly as I envisioned it, and I had to make the creative decisions right there on the spot, and that's normal. And then I had 2 groups of extras, one that would come in the first half and then one group that would come in the later half. And this is a big mistake that I made. I did not provide food, which was horrible. My thinking for some reason was, this is a boxing gym. Am I even gonna be allowed to bring food? I brought beverages. There were times where I felt like my crew was kind of cranky with me, gave me some attitude, and I don't blame them. I didn't feed them. Another good thing to know is to have multiple contacts for a position. I knew in post-production I had to make it look like there was a lot of people there cheering on for the fight, even though in reality there really wasn't. There were some scenes that I was not able to do, some voice lines that I forgot to do. That is something that I will take into account for my next project. I think I had the least trouble this day. I also got us more time to shoot like I did in the first day. In the film, as you see, there is cuts from past and present, location from location. Even when I gave my actors the original script, it was also the same thing. It was kind of like scrambled. But for each individual actors, I gave them their own version of the script where it's a linear timeline. So that might be something you want to try if you're doing a cut from past and present type storytelling. Try giving a linear script to your actors as well. We actually had to leave that location 30 minutes late. Why? Because I spent 30 minutes trying to find an equipment that I did not pack. And I had to ask the owner if they had this specific cable that I was looking for, and thankfully they did. The owner was cool about it. They didn't charge us extra, which is awesome. I like what one of my crew members said, this is like guerrilla filmmaking, and sometimes that is how it's gonna be. You just have to use what you can find. Other than that, I think day 3 went pretty smooth. Probably one of the smoothest days out of the 5. Remember how I said in day 1 that the snow clearing up felt like a sign that this was meant to go forward? One scene, that one time that we needed that specific light, it was there. And it wasn't even meant to be like that. As a matter of fact, when we came back to the boxing gym on day 5, that light was fixed. Some may call it a happy accident, and I say embrace those moments. Anyways, so as you've noticed, all these shoot days are kind of close. That is also a mistake that I learned from my first short film, which was schedule days that were like even months apart. I didn't want to, but of course schedules conflicted and all that. In the part when the main character is punching the bag, I wanted to see if it looked better with lights on or lights off. There are just moments where you go, wow, this is how I envisioned it. And that is what happened when I saw the perfect lighting situation, when I saw how the actors performed in that climax sequence, the raw emotions that they put on. I was so surprised and I was smiling so much behind that camera. There's just moments like that that really keep me going. That is one of my favorite feelings as a filmmaker, when you realize this is exactly how you envisioned it. Or maybe not exactly, but this looks good. And you know it looks good. Yes, it is a struggle throughout the whole process, but in the end, I really hope that you can be happy with the results. So after we got done with the climax part, we shot the father talking to the son scene and then the beginning of the montage scene, but it was getting pretty late, so I knew we had to make this a part 2, which is then when we move on to day number 5. To wrap up production, I combined 2 locations, the outside scene and then the part 2 of the montage. And this was gonna be probably one of our longest days so far, but I already knew the outside shots were gonna be like at least an hour or so. Might as well just combine them both in one day. Of course, it was super windy when I was doing the running scenes with the actors, but thankfully, you know, that's where post-production comes in. This day was basically one big workout for the actor, because I just told him, just find any workout to do and I'll just record. And it was also when we were gonna discover if he could do the one-handed push-ups and...
Oh, wow. Okay.
Good. And it's so amazing that he did, because that's exactly what I had in the script. So the montage was the easy part. Now fast forward to the last couple of scenes that we were shooting. When we have the father ask,
How do you feel?
that was another part of the script that I did not have down. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt like my actors were kind of getting frustrated with me for how much I was saying, hey, let's redo. One more take. Wait, let's do another one. Wait. No, we gotta keep going. That's another lesson. You gotta make sure when you say one more, it's one more, because it's just gonna frustrate people. So I think it's better to just say, let's do another one, and then maybe give some suggestions or whatever. But I remember this was the hardest thing to shoot, which is weird. You imagine maybe directing all the extras was the hardest. At first I had them kind of celebrate, but then we felt like that didn't really work. And then this is where we had to kind of stop and reconvene and review the story together up to that point. Like, why are we here? Why do our characters feel this way? And we just tried different things, and I think it all worked out. I'm pretty happy with the results. And the last thing we actually shot was the beginning of the movie with the dark room. As you can see here, we had the black curtain behind, and then we had the spotlight, and then in post-production I just cut out everything except for the main character. I used a little dolly slider thing, but in the original footage you can see how shaky it was. And it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a pain, kind of trying to stabilize it all in post-production. But it felt so good to say, that's a wrap. This one's kind of a doozy, because unlike the production phase, I had no one to help me. I'm just gonna give a quick summary of the process and then talk a little more in depth with some of them. I started developing the soundtrack since 2023, even a bit before that, but I didn't know it at the time that it would be for this film. Fun fact, I was planning on having a rapper for the montage song, but I simply didn't have enough time to finalize their vocals. Do not underestimate editing. Editing takes up a lot more time than you think. I really did try to finish this whole thing within 2 months, So don't set a deadline for yourself before you are really confident that you can get it done by then. I'm talking you are 95% done. Then you can set a deadline. I really need to get some new camera gear because there were multiple times in the editing process that I had a good take, but because my camera wasn't as focused as I'd like it to be, I couldn't use it. Here's a good tip that is now discipline for me when I have projects so I don't get lazy. I implement the 1% rule, and it's basically if you do 1% of a project every day, then it'll stack up. As I mentioned, audio is half of the experience, so along with the soundtrack, I made sure to add other effects and sounds to enhance the experience, which will also take time if you do. Now, I do want to take some time to discuss about marketing and the plans I had with this. I remember I was hyping my crew up about a theatrical premiere, so I knew I wanted to have the seats filled. I would have used the short film's Instagram to launch the 30-day campaign, and I had some ideas that I thought were really interesting, but unfortunately, as I kept pushing deadlines back, continued to underestimate editing, and not being in touch with the theater, I was losing motivation. At this point, it's been over a year. The hype is gone. I really considered just releasing it on YouTube because I thought, why purchase for a theater release if the hype is dead? After thinking about it and talking with family, I figured the best thing to do now is to go out with a bang. Alrighty, I don't have a note prepared.
I
sent this message out. Wasn't a theater, it's an auditorium. To be completely honest with you, I still was not completely finished with the film. There were still some things I had to do. Some soundtracks I had to add in. Oh man, I was freaking out. But after a quick Q&A to stall time for more people to come in and getting ready to start the film, I could only hope and pray that this would all be worth it. The reception was better than I anticipated. I got around 30 attendees out of 100 seats. In that moment, I felt like a celebrity. Having people congratulating me and wanting to have a photo with me, and I wanted to surprise my actors with a gift. The initial thing, I promised them. I didn't do much marketing as mentioned before, so I'm basically running on the hope that the people who said they'd come, that they would actually come. I didn't know that the Pride Parade was today, which is why most of the attendees arrived a bit late. A quick lesson I learned is that the theater has a different audio system, so make sure to adjust your film audio if you want the best experience, because I noticed that the bass wasn't as punchy as I wanted it to be. Lo and behold, after watching the film, I got very similar reactions of a positive reception like the first premiere. Out of those 92 seats, I was able to fill 19. So now we come back to the question. 2 premieres for one short film. Why? Was it worth it just to get some people saying, wow, good job, wow, it looks professional? I was already busy with work and with school. The whole thing was around like 5,000-ish. Even family was calling me crazy at times. I'm not gonna get any money out of this. Or maybe it's because I believe I have what it takes to do this.
Not everyone's gonna offer you a door, so you sometimes just have to go and build one.
And that's what I did. Truth be told, this is an unpredictable road I'm taking, and if I'm gonna take it, I know I have to stand out. I started with 0 filmmaker connections, 2 short films that took forever, so I know I have to do something different. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed my first official start to my YouTube journey. Hopefully as I grow, you can also grow along with me from the things that I've learned. Follow me on my journey for better tools and better techniques, but as always, great storytelling.